This Metropolitan Police anti-Semitism row is big news today. It was big news yesterday, big news today. Lots of people calling for Mark Riley, the head of the Metropolitan Police, to resign. The question we're putting out to you today is why? Why? You had a police officer, Suella Braverman, amongst the people who are not happy and wants Riley to go. But we had a policeman on Saturday selling what he said was an openly Jewish man trying to cross through this protest at Aldwych, and he said, look, sir, you're openly Jewish, meaning he looked Jewish because he had a skull cap on. You shouldn't cross the road for your own safety and the fact that this would cause a civil disturbance on this. Joining us now, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Suella, good morning to you. What on earth was wrong with that police officer simply doing his job, trying to keep the peace and everyone safe?
Well, thank you for having me on. Good morning. I think there's a crisis here, really, after 6 months of hundreds of thousands of people regularly taking to the streets to march. Now, I don't object to the right to peaceful protest, but as we saw in this incident, and this is reflective of what's been going on for 6 months, these can no longer be described as peaceful marches. The police themselves believe that there is a threat of anti-Semitic violence, anti-Semitic attack, and what they did in that incident was to protect the right of the protesters to harass, intimidate and behave in an anti-Semitic way, and at the same time tell an innocent Jewish person that that person needs to give up their rights, that that person needs to stay away. That's striking the wrong balance when it comes to dealing with this challenging situation.
So what would you have preferred to have happened? You'd have preferred them to have arrested the people that were making the unacceptable slurs. I think he was called things like scum, baby killer, other horrible words. You say that their rights were being protected. They should have been targeted by the police and those particular individuals.
That's what the police should have done, and that reflects the big errors done by the leadership here. What the police should have done is confronted the threat directly. If they believe that there were people, individuals, groups who were threatening, abusive, behaving in an anti-Semitic way that may have led to violence, they should have been warning those people. They should have been arresting those people if they committed a criminal offence, not the opposite, which was to threaten arrest to an innocent Jewish civilian who was going about to exercise his rights peacefully. That's a total inversion of right and wrong, and it reflects the wrong approach that's been taken to managing these marches over the last 6 months.
It was a practical approach. And I mean, you saw the crowds going up Aldwych there, how thick the flow was and whatever. Are you suggesting that you, like a lollipop man or woman, the police officers should have walked out into the middle of that and said, stop, hold on. Yes, sir, you, Mr. Falter, you can come through here. And I think that the big problem was they said he looked obviously Jewish or openly Jewish. And he did. So are you suggesting that's what should have happened?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that the police should be, if they don't have the resources to keep the streets of London safe for everyone to enjoy, then they need to ban the march. That's up to the Met Commissioner to apply to the Home Secretary if he believes he doesn't have sufficient resources to enable the public order to be maintained. He can do that. He's not done that. And also what's horrendous about this is that to be asking someone to stay away because of their ethnicity, because they're openly Jewish, is a disgrace.
It's not. It's a safe thing to do. I mean, are you seriously telling me if you were a police officer on the ground, you'd have said, OK, Mr. Falter, you're absolutely right, off you go, walk in the middle of that whole protest looking Jewish as you do, and we'll guarantee your safety? Are you saying that's what should have happened?
There was abuse being shouted at him. There was anti-Semitic language being used in the past. That is all criminal. The police should be arresting those who are committing criminal offences, not allowing them the space to continue with their criminality and urging everybody else to stay out of the way. That's a totally wrong approach to policing.
But as you are aware, the vast majority of people who attend these rallies are protesting peacefully about what they see as the unacceptable loss of civilian life, a huge number of children having been killed in Gaza. If you shut down that protest because of the views of a minority, is that any different from what people were attempting to do at NatCon in Brussels last week, where the mayor there objected to the anti-gay, anti-abortion views of a number of people who were on stage?
Listen, war is terrible. There's been tragedy out in the Middle East, and there are really strongly held views on both sides of this debate. But it cannot be right that, whereas this debate plays out on the streets of Britain, that one group of people can no longer exercise their rights peacefully and safely. If that's the case, if the police themselves assess that there is a risk of anti-Semitic violence, these can no longer be called peaceful marches. There is a level of hatefulness which is unmanageable, unacceptable and intolerable.
I see and I hear what you're saying, Ms. Braverman, about all of that. So I can accept that after what happened on Saturday, perhaps we should go back and review and say, look, this is not working, this is not right, the threat of violence exists here. But the problem is, and I put it to you, that you're getting the police officer who made the statements, who stopped the man going, he's been villainised about all of this. And Mark Rowley, up until now, I mean, yes, from here on in, change your plan, Rowley, if that's what we're asking you to do. But is he really to carry the can for all of this as to what's happening so far?
Well, I think, listen, my complaint is not against the individual officers on the ground. They're dealing with a really difficult situation and they're doing their best. This is about the orders that they are following, and those come from the top. And there's been a strategic failure here by Sir Mark Rowley. He has basically applied the same approach that the police apply to managing football crowds. And what they do then is they say, well, the larger group, we're going to choose that group and we're going to protect that larger group, and any other smaller groups or individuals who come along, we're going to wave them on and tell them to stay away. You can't apply that approach to this issue. This is about a complex and emotive subject. People are dying in the Middle East. People feel very strongly. It's about race. It's about religion. It's about identity. You can't apply. This is not about Man U versus Liverpool fans. This is about two different groups of people wanting to exercise their rights. If they're doing so peacefully, that's great, and they can be allowed to do that. But we've seen for months now anti-Semitic chanting, the chanting of jihad, anti-Semitic slogans, the scaling of war memorials, the firing of flares. The police have allowed that to happen. They've turned a blind eye to all of that. And as a result, we're seeing unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism, disproportionate police resource. This is the important point. Disproportionate police resource being deployed to these marches. £32 million, 30,000 officer shifts and 5,000 officer rest days have been cancelled to police these marches. We can't carry on like this.
Well, except that huge numbers of people are attending. I mean, democratic right.
Well, if the police,
you know, there's huge volumes of people who want to exercise that right.
They've made their point.
Well, people are still dying in the Middle East. But look, we've got limited time. I want to just ask you about the Rwanda bill. You'll be aware the Prime Minister has promised those flights are going to take off in the spring. Not much left of spring, but he'll be hopeful that the bill will pass through. It's this Afghan concession that seems to be a sticking point in the Lords. And I just want to ask you your own view in all of this. 3 former chiefs of the Defence Staff, as well as a former chief of the General Staff and a former chief of the Naval Staff, have warned the Prime Minister that failing to allow interpreters that helped British forces in Afghanistan into this country is a dereliction of our moral duty. Crossbenchers also very upset about this, and a huge number of Conservatives behind the scenes. I understand you want to get those flights off the ground, but surely this one amendment can be allowed.
If I'm honest, I don't really take a view on this amendment because I believe fundamentally the bill is fatally flawed, and with or without this amendment, it's going to fail. So I believe the bill won't work, and that's the more serious issue. It won't work because it's left too many gaps. It won't work because people who are going to be detained will bring individual claims immediately and will just clog up the courts, and we won't get them off on flights to Rwanda. That's the big problem. So I don't really take a view on this amendment, which I believe is incidental to the bigger issue that we've got with the bill.
And just quickly, I can't resist because I've got you, and I know you've written an opinion piece in the papers recently about this, and just about half an hour ago we had Bridget Phillipson on talking about private schools. I was saying to her about this latest figure they've come up with, 1.6 billion they think they're going to generate from adding VAT to private school fees. You've got a strong opinion on this. What is it?
Well, that figure's been debunked by various experts, so it's a total overestimation of what this very punitive and anti-social justice proposal will achieve. I think that this is really, really damaging. There are many, many thousands of independent schools out there which provide really valuable services. They are, aspirational families who are going to them. In many cases, there are special education needs schools, so children with complex learning difficulties go to independent schools because there isn't availability elsewhere. Faith schools also provide a particular provision that some parents want to give their children. Many of these schools will be jeopardised by this punitive attack on aspiration, this punitive and unjustified attack on social justice. I believe passionately about education, and I believe Labour's policy is anti-equality and anti-aspiration.
OK. Suella Braverman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.